So you're tired of the Ranger getting outclassed with abilities that don't scale and are highly situational. Well, we're gonna fix it with a Ranger homebrew breakdown that'll blow your mind. Coming up. Welcome to the Dungeon Coach. I'm the Dungeon Coach. I'm here to lower that DC in your game and increase the viability of the Ranger class. The Ranger is one of my top 3 favorite classes in all of Dungeons & Dragons, and I hate how much crap it gets online with people complaining about how weak it is. But I don't think the problem lies in the power of the Ranger. Go, Power Rangers! Whoa. In this video, I'm here to explain exactly why it can feel this way and some next level fixes to that core class that you're going to want to play for yourself. If you want to get right into this homebrew and skip the rant about why this is needed, then go to the timestamp right here. But first, I gotta give credit where credit's due. This homebrew comes from one of my patrons, Pagnabros. He is one of the best homebrewers I have ever seen, and he truly treats this like an art form, and this Ranger class of his is a masterpiece. We've collaborated on some rules and subclasses that have turned out great. In fact, he's who I worked with to do my homebrew fix on the Ranger Fey Wanderer subclass. But for the topic of this video, I recently did a giveaway to all my patrons where they could hand pick a topic themselves. So in Pagnabros 1, we chose this to showcase to the world. Or like 3,000 people. But hey, this little community of ours is growing fast and we're almost at 3,000 subscribers. Pagnabros Ranger Fix, along with an article explaining some of these issues, will be linked down in the description. So let's get into it. When doing any homebrew fix, I always ask myself exactly what the specific thing is that's causing this problem. Generic statements like it's weak doesn't really help, and you have to ask yourself why. So I spent hours diving in and researching why the Ranger can just feel off sometimes. I took a big step back and compared the Ranger to every other martial class of what they get at level 1. Pretty much every one of these get 2 what I'm going to call core features. These are a huge part of the class and most of the time scale with level. The Barbarian is the best example of this. At level 1, they get Rage and Unarmored Defense. Rage is a huge class-defining feature that gets better and better as you level, and Unarmored Defense gets better as your stats increase. Which brings me to the Monk that also gets Unarmored Defense, but its second core feature is Martial Arts. This gives you an extra attack and a martial arts die that scales with level, going from a D4 all the way up to a D10. Keep that in mind for what we do with the Ranger later. Fighters, on the other hand, get 2 really strong core features, but they don't scale. But a fighting style and second wind at level 1 is pretty awesome. You get a consistent fighting boost that you can always use and a mid-combat heal. But who gets even better healing? The Paladin, with Lay on Hands and Divine Sense. Lay on Hands is again a scaling ability that gets better and better as you level. Healing that you can divide up 1 point at a time, super good. But for the Paladin's second feature, they get Divine Sense, which is nowhere near as strong. So in my opinion of what I'm trying to show you guys here is I don't consider this a core feature. I would call this more of a flavor feature. And this will start to shed some light on some of the issues with the Ranger. Being able to sense Celestials, Fiends, and Undead is super useful, but only as much as your DM makes it. If the DM never puts any of those 3 in front of you, the ability is literally useless. But the silver lining here is you can use this feature as many times equal to 1 plus your charisma modifier. So ultimately it's not that bad because it has its own resource pool. Keep this in mind when we start talking about Rangers here soon. So if you do use that Divine Sense and nothing happens, that's fine. It's not like you wasted a spell slot or anything. Poor Rangers. I literally saved the best for last with the Rogue. Unlike the Ranger, everyone always says how strong the Rogue is, and this might show a little bit of why. They break the rules here and get 3 features at level 1. They get 2 core features of Sneak Attack and Expertise, and they get a flavor feature of Thieves' Cant. Those sneaky bastards. Sneak Attack gives a massive scaling damage boost that increases every 2 levels. Expertise is also a strong boost to key abilities that come up all the time. So these 2 things alone here are great and let that rogue really start to feel like a rogue and give scaling power. But they also get a flavor feature thrown in there of Thieves' Cant, which is again highly situational and only as useful as the DM makes it. Some rogues may literally never use this if their DM never puts an opportunity in front of them. But no big deal, this is their 3rd feature anyway, and it's just for flavor. Thinking about this honestly makes me want to go back to the other martial classes and sprinkle in some flavor features for them who don't have one. Comment down below with your ideas and I might just make that video. But if your flavor feature never gets used, it's really okay because you should have those 2 other core features to fall back on. Which brings us to the Ranger. Make sure you keep everything in mind from what I just said. At level 1, Rangers get a pick from a favorite enemy list, and for the sake of this, let's say it's dragons. You have advantage on survival checks to track dragons, intelligence checks about them, and can now speak Draconic. But the craziest part to me about all of this is let's say you find a dragon and you're fighting one. You are no better at actually fighting your favorite enemy. But to literally everything else in the world that doesn't pertain to dragons, you get nothing. So I would definitely have to call this a flavor feature and is far too situational to be a core feature. Would it be super important and cool to be able to track a dragon down to its lair and get the jump on him? Yeah. But what about fighting a dragon? Or things that don't involve dragons? Okay, don't worry. Their second core feature should make up for this, kind of like the paladin did, right? So you have a very specific favorite enemy. Now you can have a very specific favorite terrain. Natural Explorer lets you double your proficiency bonus to any wisdom or intelligence checks made about your terrain, and you can't get lost in it, and some other flavor things. This should really be called flavored terrain. No. So this is yet another flavor feature. Would it be super useful to be able to navigate through a swamp? Yeah, but only as much as your DM makes it. You feeling functional as a class should not be so heavily reliant on your DM's story arc. Why are both of these features so highly situational? So that's the biggest issue I think that Rangers have. But the second one is that none of those abilities scale with level. The only thing that scales with a Ranger is how many spells that they know. And no, I'm not counting in later levels that they gain another favored terrain or favorite enemy. And it's always been weird anyway with them learning this mid-campaign unless it has something to do with your story. And again, this offers almost no combat benefits. Rangers are considered a half-caster, but for some reason get less spells known than Paladins do. Rangers are stuck at just 2, while Paladins get half their level plus their charisma modifier. Why not let Rangers do the same thing, but with wisdom? This would give more depth and options when they're picking their stats. This would also open up more options for their early level spell selection. Because let's be honest, with only 2 choices, one of them's gonna be Hunter's Mark and the other one's probably Cure Wounds or Jump if you're cool. But now as we move on to 3rd level, this same over-restriction comes in as well. Remember how Paladins at level 1 get a cool Divine Sense flavor thing that has its own charge system? Well, Ranger's version of this exact same thing doesn't come to level 3, and it costs a spell slot. What? And yes, I know it's a longer range, but it doesn't even tell you the exact location or number of creatures. Again, this is a situational feature that if used at the wrong time, burns one of your very few spell slots. 6th level, you get an upgrade to that flavor feature. At 8th level, you get an ability score improvement along with land stride, so this is fine. And then at 10th level, they get hide in plain sight, which is basically advanced hide and go seek. If you spend 1 minute preparing to hide, you get +10 to your roll. But I feel like this is something that everyone could already do. If my players really commit to a creative description and spend some time doing it, I might give them advantage on that roll. Hey DM, if I go over there and hide in that bush and put mud on my face, can I have advantage on my stealth roll? Sure, I love the creativity. Whoa. Now I know it's not a +10, but why is this a level 10 class feature? And then the rest of these higher level features just give you small boosts to being able to hide better and hit invisible creatures. But then, at the 20th level, at the peak of the Ranger's power, they're now able to deal more damage with all of their strikes. At their favorite enemies only though. Just those ones. Again, situational. So even at level 20, they still can't escape the situational curse. Now yes, I have seen the other attempts to fix this Ranger, but trying to give them damage boosts at earlier levels, like with proficiency bonus towards favorite enemies. But that doesn't fix that big situational problem. So I think the key here is something that's perfect for Rangers, but as it stands right now, really misses the mark. Hunter's Mark. Other classes get cool charge systems like rages, or things that just happen like sneak attacks. Hunter's Mark costs a spell slot to be able to use, and this not only takes away from them being able to cast other spells, but also requires concentration. So if you try and cast Hail of Thorns, Zephyr Strike, or Pass Without a Trace, Hunter's Mark's gone. Hunter's Mark just feels so rangery that it should be a core part of the class. Wait a second, what if that is the solution? A scaling Hunter's Mark that lets the Ranger track down all sorts of prey. Now that sounds interesting. So let's get into that Homebrew variant. At level 1, these new Rangers take out the flavor feature of favorite enemy and gain a brand new scaling core feature of, you guessed it, Hunter's Mark. Beginning at 1st level, you can focus your senses on a creature, magically marking them as your quarry. As a bonus action, you can mark one creature that you can see within 90 feet of you. Alternatively, you can mark a creature by studying its tracks for at least 1 minute. So you can Hunter's Mark this thing as you track it down. How rangery is that? This target is marked as long as it's on the same plane of existence and isn't protected by divine magic. You do get advantage on perception and survival checks towards this creature, but the second part is the best. You gain bonus damage towards this target based on a scaling Hunter's Mark dice from the table. This increases and scales as you level from a D4 all the way up to a D12. This also has a unique charge system, and you can cast it as many times as your wisdom modifier that resets on a short rest. Narrowing Rangers down to just a specific type of enemy was too much. Now they're a master predator. They can hunt down a variety of prey and even Hunter's Mark them without seeing him. With this having its own charge system and not requiring concentration anymore, this really opens up the Ranger to be able to cast those Ranger spells. So there's one strong core feature, but what about the second? Natural Explorer gives you an extra proficiency bonus for those nature and survival checks and lets you get a sense of how many and what size the creature you're tracking down is. It does remove a lot of those travel features that you get from before, but it puts them back into the feature you get at level 3. But this Natural Explorer also gives you an extra bonus where you choose a favored terrain that actually gives you a useful feature. If you choose the coast, your swimming speed no longer costs extra movement and you can hold your breath twice as long. Desert lets you naturally adapt to hot climates and gives fire resistance. Forest doubles your proficiency bonus in perception. Grasslands increases your movement speed by 10. Mountain lets you climb better. Swamp gives you resistance to poison and disease. Tundra gives you cold resistance. For the Underdark, you learn Undercommon and gain Dark Vision, but if you already have Dark Vision, you gain Blind Sight with a range of 5 feet. And there's even Urban that gives you a bonus language and you can double your proficiency in Investigation. Second level now still gives you that fighting style, but this adds an extra bonus of a guerrilla fighting style to choose from. It increases your speed by 10 feet if you aren't wearing heavy armor and gives you a +1 to all damage rolls if you move more than 5 feet that turn. You also of course gain the ability to cast spells, but now we've changed it to half your Ranger level plus your Wisdom modifier of spells known. At level 3, you get all that cool travel stuff back with Wilderness Guide, and it applies to your whole group. Difficult terrain doesn't slow down your group. Even if you're engaged in a small activity while traveling, you can still be alert to danger. You don't suffer penalties to perception checks while moving at a fast pace, and you can move stealthily at a normal pace. This lets the Rangers shine and help the whole group instead of just themselves. I have a homebrew video to spice up your travel linked right here that I feel like the Ranger could be a big part of. You also get your Ranger Conclave feature here, and 4th and 5th levels stay the same. At 6th level, you get Vanish, which is much earlier than normal. This lets you be untrackable and hide as a bonus action, but also has a cool buff. If you're hidden when initiative's rolled for, your first attack does not reveal your position, assuming you succeed on a hide check after. This is another great Ranger style ability, and getting it at level 6 feels a lot better than 14. You also get another Natural Explorer feature, but I would encourage the DM to have some sort of story reason how they're able to do this now. But that advice also applies to pretty much every ability. 8th level still unchanged. Land Stride and ability score is totally fine. And at 9th level, you get nothing. Now that's not just for this Homebrew Ranger, that's for the original Ranger and many other classes across different levels. It's always felt bad to me when the only thing you get when leveling up is an ability score improvement or access to a higher level spell. My solution to this is my favorite homebrew out of all of them. I've done a video on it linked right here of a bonus level up system. This is when the DM gives customized flavor features to their players based on how they're playing their class. Usually these are smaller things, but for a situation like this, I might give them more. 10th level is that hide in plain sight, but we buffed it. So instead of an advanced hide and go seek, you can actually go invisible. Way more useful. Pagnabros is a genius too because I love how he balanced this. It's a bonus action to use and you become invisible for 6 seconds only. But every turn after you can use your action to prolong it 6 seconds more, up to a total of 1 minute. But you can only use this once until a short or long rest. Time out! I have another homebrew video on a short and long rest system, linked right here, that's been the most popular video on my channel so far. I make some changes to short rest and long rest and add what's called a full rest. But if you use that homebrew system, this Ranger ability is a good example of something that I would change from a short rest to a long rest. Just like I would do with every other ability that I feel like being able to reset every 10 minutes would be too much. Okay. At 14th level, you don't get anything but a buff to Natural Explorer, and when I was first looking at this, I felt like it might have been too weak. But this class feels so much better and is a lot stronger now, so I don't feel like it needs it. Moving on. Now I do want to say before we finish this off that whenever I homebrew, I usually focus on the earlier levels because most players never get past 15th level. I had a Ranger that got to level 20 and he had some pretty crazy stuff, but I think leaving the 18th and 20th level features the way they are is totally fine. And there it is. I want to know what you guys think of this fix down in the comments. Thank you again to Pagnabros for making this Ranger fix and collaborating with me on this video. We also did that Fey Wanderer homebrew fix, and if this video gets over 400 likes, I'll do that video too. This whole like system has really helped me know what you guys want to see the most. The one thing I'm adding here is this goal has to be met within a week of me posting the video. This channel's been growing real fast, and my earlier videos only needed 100 likes to be able to unlock those videos. So as we get bigger, all my videos eventually will hit that mark. But I don't want to make videos that you eventually want to see. I want to know what you want to see now. My homebrew rest system got over 400 likes in just 3 days. So I hear you guys, and I'll be doing a follow-up video to incorporate downtime into your games. So a huge thank you to all my patrons, along with Pagnabros. I give my patrons video topics, and they vote on which one they want to see the most. We've had a ton of new patrons join recently, with my new adult dragons being Taylor Gilland, Logan Marvel, DM Ibex, Draconoid B, and King Bran. New young dragons with Son of a Sofa Man and Mad King Kerr. We also have 2 new dragonlings with Sherry and Julian. New wormlings with Aiden, Nick, and Keith, no last name Foyson. A bunch of new hatchlings with Brandon, Edward, Ignio, Michelle, Richard, unable to find name, and Zachary. And you can't forget about those little eggs of Gene, Jason, Theron, Tim, and Kibbles. I appreciate all of you so much, which is why I've been trying to give back. We just finished up a big Patreon giveaway, and I'll be doing another one at 5,000 subscribers. And if you're still here, I have a secret announcement for you. Did you know only about 10 or 20% of y'all make it to the end of these videos? So I got a special announcement for you. I've got a ton of requests to do this, so I finally put it all together. We now have a dungeon locker. This is the name of the merch shop that I now have for you guys. It's got everything from a t-shirt to a hoodie and even a phone case. The link for this is at the very, very bottom of the description. I hid it down there so only you guys know about it. So comment down below or DM me on Discord if you get your hands on some. Send me a picture of you guys wearing it. So if you want to become a dragon and join my Patreon, click right here. And if you want to join the dungeon crew, subscribe and click right here. I just released a beginner's guide on how to play D&D online with your friends right here. And if you like all this homebrew stuff, I got you covered right here. So until next time, stay creative and think outside that box. Peace.